Welcome back everyone, John Panio here with another video. Today we're going to be going over Limbus Company and why I think it's one of the better gachas on the market right now. I would even dare say it's probably near the top 25 to 10% of gachas. Even though it's lacking content right now, it has a great foundation to be a great game. This game is made by Project Moon, which is a small indie developer, but they are the creators of Library of Runa, Lobotomy Corporation, and Limbus Company lies within that world. This game, on release, definitely had its issues, but there are a lot of great things about it from launch till now that I'm going to go over. And hopefully that will convince you guys to give this game a shot. I will say it might not be for everyone, but it is something that you should definitely give it a shot. So, on release date, the game had iOS, Steam, and Android already available. Most gachas just have their iOS and Android launch and that's it, and they expect you to play on PC emulating, but this game had all three on launch. However, an issue that did happen was you could not merge your accounts from your phone to your Steam account. The function was there, but it just wasn't working. So if you wanted to merge your phone account onto your Steam, you couldn't do that. And this was really important because this game, you can re-roll your accounts very easily with a guest account. Download the game, download the files, skip the tutorial, do your re-rolls, delete your account, go back to the main menu, log into a guest account, rinse and repeat. That process maybe took like 2 minutes. And surprisingly, this is one of the games with the better gacha rates. If you go into, the polls, you can see that in order for you to get a really good thing, either a really great gear, let's just say gear for now, ego, which is essentially like a nice gear, or 3-star identities, which is like the character in Genshin, your total percentage is 4.2%. That is astronomically high for gachas. Fate, actually no, not Fate. 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross, their rates for getting like the equivalent of a 3-star character is 0.5%. Genshin Impact is 90 for soft pity, 180 for hard pity to guarantee the character you want. That is almost a 0.5%, which is closer to like, I want to say 0.6, 0.7. So 4.2 is massive. And that's why people want to reroll. For rates, obviously, but what ended up happening was if you tried to reroll on Steam, you actually could not reroll on Steam. For whatever the reason, on launch, Steam was one of the things where you could not reroll your account, but you were able to do rerolling on Android and iOS. So what people wanted to do was get their best account with the most luck. So what people did was they emulated it, played on their phone, and they rerolled their account. But when they tried to merge their account on their Steam, they couldn't because it just wasn't working. 1 week later, the developer were able to get it so that Android could merge to Steam. About 2 weeks later, they were able to make it so that iOS can merge onto Steam. And that is a great turnaround. Most developers either take too long with dealing with, big issues like this, either don't communicate with the community or just aren't very transparent with the community. And this is a small company, very small company, indie developer, Project Moon, and they've been nothing but communicative with their Twitter account, posting daily, if not every other day, which is almost unheard of from most companies. A lot of games go months without updates, and that really kills a game. And this game, since launch, has been nothing but communicative. That was the first issue. You couldn't merge your account, but 2 weeks later, you could merge your phone account to your computer, which is great. Another thing that this game does really well is that they respect your money. What do I mean by that? So this game obviously has the traditional battle passes. You have your free battle pass and then you have your paid battle pass. Fair enough. Great value, most people will get that. But the one thing that I do want to talk about is their monthly package. Just like how Genshin Impact has a cheap pass where you pay like $10 and you get free premium currency every day. Or you get some right in the get-go and then you get free premium currency every day. However, this game actually does it so if you decide not to log in for a month, and technically speaking a year, you are going to get your premium currency that you paid for even if you don't log into the game. This is really amazing because some games, for example, Genshin Impact, they don't actually give you your premium currency if you don't log in for that day. I am of the mindset that if I paid for this and I decide not to log into your game, I should still get my premium currency. I should not be forced to log into the game just to collect my currency. If I log into the game, it's just basically saying, well, you better play the game if you want your currency, and if you don't log in that day, haha, you're not gonna get paid for what you paid for. Which I think is kinda dumb. I know back in the past there was a game called King's Raid that also does what Limbus Company does, but that game suffered for other reasons. Now, another thing that I really like is that this game really respects the player's time. Obviously, even though there's not a lot of content right now, there will be more content in the future, coming on the 16th, this game respects your time. What do I mean by that? So, in this game, you have your stamina system down here, and what's very interesting is that unlike Genshin Impact, where you can only convert your stamina into 4 condensed stamina versions, this game allows you to condense your stamina with no cap. Most games pseudo-lock you from doing that. Genshin Impact only allows you to condense your stamina to a cap of 4 maximum to force you to have to use those condensed stamina to play the game and do content with it. And then you can get your stamina to recharge. It's really inefficient for you to have your stamina always capped out and not recharging. And this game doesn't force you to do anything. If you wanted to, you could literally log into the game, condense your stamina, and save these modules for later if you ever want to use it. The game does not pseudo force you to spend your resources. This game does not punish you for not wanting to play it. This game actually kind of rewards you for not playing it. Obviously, there's still dailies and weeklies that you want to do, play a little bit here and there to maintain your progress, but it's not actively forcing you into playing the game, which I really like. There are times or there are certain days where I don't feel like playing the game, but people FOMO because they're like, oh, I missed my dailies, I should have done this, oh, my stamina's capped, so I have to use it, and then I gotta condense more stamina. It's one of the reasons why I stopped playing Genshin. I really did like Genshin, but it just became a chore. Even condensing your stamina was a chore. You had to collect butterflies, and then you can use the butterflies to condense your stamina, which is a whole nother conversation in itself. Now, what's also something that I really enjoy is that there's no gear in this game, sort of. So the game does have something called ego, which acts like a gear. You could say egos are like gears, but egos are essentially a character's special move that can give you passive effects after you use it. So these act kind of like gear in the game, but it's more exciting than gear. Like in Genshin, pulling a nice shiny 5-star weapon does not really excite me personally. To me, a nice big shiny weapon is just bigger numbers. It acts the same as any generic piece of gear. Like in Genshin, you have your equipment, you have big stats on it, bigger number, whoopee, bigger defenses, great. You have this nice shiny weapon, great. Bigger numbers, bigger damage, phenomenal. But this game does it in a way where this is technically their weapon, but you can equip potentially up to 5 of these weapons once you get it, egos if you will, and they require different resources to use in battle, and they do different things, which is really cool. That means in the future, as more content gets released, you can build a character around their egos, their weapons. So essentially you could have 5 weapons with 5 different passives, and once you activate those weapons, you get their passives, which changes how the character can play, which is very interesting compared to just nice 5-star weapon, bigger damage, cool. But not only that though, this game does not have gear. The game does not have any gear progression whatsoever. You can't farm for equipment, there's no equipment to be farmed. All you have to do to get your character to become stronger is just ascend it, get them to tier 3 and get them to level 30. And it's very easy to get your characters to level 30, even with the stuff I have right here. Just a few tickets, 19 of these, and I'm at level 30. And you can get potentially 10 of these, or no, potentially 50 of these within a week very easily if you do your dungeons. And you can always grind for more. So the game doesn't really soft lock you from leveling up your characters. It's actually very easy to level up your characters. That way, all characters are on a base level. There's no stats that are different compared to your other characters. Say for example, this character right here, if he's maxed out, he will have the same stats as someone that has the same character on another account maxed out. The only difference is that in the game, the only variable really is your speed, which you can roll anywhere from 3 to 7, and your skills, which you can coin flip for, which is a discussion for another time. Essentially, your character is the same as another character's account. If you max it out and they max it out, everything is the same 1-to-1 basically, which is great. A lot of games out there artificially increase gameplay by having a egregious equipment farming system. Genshin Impact, 7 Deadly Sins, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, Epic 7, all of these games have a equipment system where if you're lucky and you spend a lot of time on it, you can get the best gear with the right set, the right main stat, the right substats, the right rolls, and that's your daily progression. And you can spend a ton of time on that. The game does not force you to spend money on the game, but definitely if you spend money, you're definitely paying for the convenience of skipping the line, if you will. And obviously free-to-play players can get to the same power as someone who pays money. It's just that it might take more time and more luck to get there. I personally have never been a fan of just farming for gear, because everyone in the back of my mind know that, alright, this character needs to have HP, defense. This character needs to have damage, crit rate. And ideally, it would be nice that off the get-go, everyone gets that. The character gets it right off the get-go. They don't have to farm it, and it's like consistent throughout everybody. So that way, all the players' experience are the same. There is an argument to say that because this game does not do that, there is definitely going to be a quote-unquote lack of content, since right now there are 2 things that you can do in the game. You can either play the story, which can be done pretty quickly. I would say you can do that in 5 to 6 hours of gameplay, like speedrun style. And then you have your mirror dungeons, which is essentially like your weekly roguelike. And by roguelike, I literally mean roguelike. There's like a weekly dungeon where you go in, you have characters, and progress through it through like a Slay the Spire experience. Great. However, they do have a roadmap laid out. So in a week's time, they're going to be introducing new content. They're going to be introducing a dungeon where, or not a dungeon, but they're going to be revamping the mirror dungeon, which is the weekly dungeon, to have premium currency as one of the drops. So now you can farm the premium currency, albeit capped. So how it works is, if you farm for 2 weeks of the premium currency in the mirror dungeon, you can get yourself a 10 roll, which is also very good. 10 rolls in gachas equate to about $10, so basically every 2 weeks you can earn yourself $10 for a 10 pull, which is very generous from most games. Another thing to note is that they're going to be introducing experience dungeon and resource dungeon. Basically, it's going to be a dungeon specifically for grinding out experience tickets to level up your characters, and another dungeon that lets you grind materials to be able to ascend your characters, which is also very nice. And this has all been within just a month. All of these changes, the roadmaps, everything they're laying out is all happening within the month. I mean, I will say that those updates are coming up frequently, but not even that though. Next month, so I would say, all right, maybe in 30 days. So definitely next month in April, they're releasing essentially Abyss Dungeon or towers to the game, which is essentially they're gonna have 13 floors. It's end game content. Take your best characters, throw them against these mobs, and try to beat it. Each floor you get rewards. There's 13 floors, and if you complete the whole dungeon, you get a little bit something extra, which is great. And these are all rolling out very, very quickly. This is not a game that's taking forever to pump out content. Like, they are pumping out content. Even now, they had a new banner that came out 2 weeks after the game launch. So the game launched, they had their first banner, and in the second week, they already had a banner ready to go, releasing, nice shiny characters for us to play with, which is also very nice. And another thing that's really exciting is that they're 10 pulls. So obviously, gacha rate 1,300 is the standard 10 pull, 130 lunacy, 1 pull for free currency. But if you paid currency, so if you bought a monthly pack, or if you paid money for these packs or any of these packs that give you like a flat bonus, like 130, you can then use it to buy a discounted pull for cheap. As you can see, I can spend 13 lunacy for a single pull. It might not be great, but you're still getting pulls and resources. This is essentially 10% of the cost of what you would get for a regular pull. No game really does that. I mean, they kind of do, but not really. They'll either give you like a 1 free pull a day, which is Arknights, I believe. Arknight gives you essentially 1 free pull a day, but this game decides that, all right, we're gonna give you a super cheap free roll once a day per banner, which is very nice. I mean, the odds of you hitting aren't high, but if you're going to be spending money on the game anyways, this is definitely like great value. So the game definitely knows how to price their gacha to not A, gouge the people, and B, force people to have to spend money on the game. A prime example is just this account right here. This account right here has a ton of shiny characters, which I pulled. And you can basically say that this account is essentially a free-to-play account. The only money that I've spent on the game is the monthly package, only one of them. I've only spent money on one monthly package, and as you can already see, I have a lot of shiny characters to play with. And not only that though, I still have enough in-game currency to do at least 3 10 pulls. So if this was a free-to-play account, this in itself is already indicative of how, number one, good the rates are, and two, how you can be free to play and not feel like you're missing out. Obviously, this game does not really have a pity system, so sometimes you might get really shafted, but it does allow you some leverage. The game does offer a pity system of sorts. If you have, threads, which are these, if you pull enough duplicates of a unit, you can then use these threads to pull for their identity. If I got myself 400 Ryoshu threads, or Ryoshu Ego Shards is what they call it, I could convert it into a guaranteed shiny character, or I could use less to get myself a less shiny character. So the game does have a pseudo pity system built in, but the rates are so goddamn high that most likely you're going to be getting those units that you really want. What's really amazing is that most games really try to milk you in the gacha, and most games also have a duplicate system. What I mean by that is, if you get a duplicate of like a hero or a weapon, you can then feed that weapon into your hero to make it stronger. Genshin Impact, prime example. If you get an equipment that's the same, you can feed it into another equipment to make it stronger. But like most people, if you get an exact copy of a unit, it feels really bad. And sometimes there are games where you're forced to get extra duplicates of said equipment or of said unit to use the character at their max potential or more optimal. Prime example is 7 Deadly Sins, Epic 7, Genshin Impact. In Genshin Impact, you can, quote unquote, C6 your characters. With each duplicate character you get, you can unlock special passives for your character. Some characters don't require passives to be useful, but some characters exponentially get way better with those constellations unlocked. With Epic 7, there are some instances where having duplicates of heroes can help only a little bit, but since the game has a PvP aspect to it, those little bit of stats can go a long way. And there's no worse feeling than having a character or having a unit and realizing that you need to get more copies of that character or gear in order for you to feel like you can compete with other characters. However, I will say that Genshin Impact is a PvE game. It doesn't force you to use those weapons. The only thing that having higher constellations, higher, duplicate tiers into your character and duplicating weapons that you feed into other heroes to make it stronger, all it does is it just makes it so you do more damage so you can clear the game's content faster. That's basically it. Outside of that though, it doesn't really matter because most of those games don't force you to have those characters or equipment to progress. It's just one of those things that would be nice. I will say though, in PvP games or gachas like 7 Deadly Sins and Epic 7, those do matter quite a bit. Sometimes the difference between winning and losing is just those little extra stat bonuses that you get. And those are the times where the game feels really bad. There's nothing worse in a game than introducing duplicates, like dupe systems where you can get duplicates of certain units and items, and then throwing it into a system where it's like PvP, where then you have this continuous grind of like, oh, new shiny character comes out, gotta get 6 copies of it to be the best. But then new character comes out, now my old character is kind of irrelevant and I have to put more resource and more money in this character, and then eventually it becomes this constant vicious cycle of if people want to keep up with the game, they're gonna have to spend more and more money, which is terrible. This game in itself, I've only spent $7 USD, and that's already more than enough for what I need right now. I haven't bought any of the packs, the monthly packs, those deals, and I haven't bought the second monthly pass. There's 2 monthly passes, a cheaper one and a little bit more expensive one. I only bought the more expensive one. That's it. Overall, this game has so much good going for it, but I also will say that this game might not be for most players. The reason why I say that is because this game is a turn-based battle system where there's a lot of RNG involved. Let me show you a quick demonstration of what I'm talking about. So this game, you essentially have your nice shiny characters and you can pick them to fight for you. And you can get your characters to fight, which is nice and fun. You select them and then you hop in the battle. And as you can see, this game kind of plays like a turn-based. Faster units go first, they will fight units who are slower. Faster person gets to act. And the game acts like an auto battler and it plays itself out. Obviously there are instances where you can control the battle combat more so, but those are usually reserved for harder fights. As you can see right now, I can just click win rate and let the game play. The game plays by itself. It goes off of a heads or tails system. If you land heads, your number gets bigger. If you land tails, your numbers don't get bigger. Bigger number wins. And that's basically how this game plays for the majority of it. Obviously, there's definitely more nuances in the game, but that in itself is how the game plays. You have a group of 5 characters that you bring into your dungeon. Sometimes you might be able to bring 12, but for your most part, your team is always just going to consist of 5 characters. They're going to go, they're going to beat up people, and you just have to use your bigger numbers to beat up the enemy. If the enemy has bigger numbers, you take damage. If you have bigger numbers, enemy takes damage. You got these nice cool skills that are egos, you know, the weapons, big flashy skills, and the gameplay relatively simple, but definitely not easy. There is definitely a big learning curve involved in this game. And as you can also see, you only waste 1 stamina if you decide to leave the dungeon, or if you scoop, or if you lose 1 stamina. You don't lose all of it, which is great. And as you guys can see, this game right now is primed to be in a great position to be a great gacha. It's got great storyline. It's got a lot of content coming up. It's got a unique take on how gacha is meant to be. It's very generous with its community, very communicative. Not trying to wrench every penny from you. They're not trying to force you to play the game by artificially making you have to play the game, such as like Genshin Impact, where if you don't condense your resin and you don't use your resin, you can't condense any more resin. This game, unlimited cap for stamina. Just hop on the game, condense your resin or condense your stamina, and hop off. It's super transparent. It's got a huge lore behind it from previous titles with Lobotomy Corporation, Library of Runa. There's a lot that I can go on and on and on about. And right now, even though the game does suffer performance issues on the phone, I'm sure those will get fixed eventually. I'm really looking forward to what this game has in store for everyone. It is a fantastic game. Let me guys know what you think in the comments down in the section down below. What are your experiences that you've had with other gacha games, and how would you compare that with Limbus Company? Honestly, for me, really enjoying this game. I really like how I can be in control of the pace. If I want to grind and go hard, I can. If I want to take it chill, great. I'm not missing out on too much compared to someone else who's really going at it really hard. And overall, I've just liked how the developers have handled the situation when it comes to bugs, communication, and just its overall generosity to its player base. Because like with most gachas, if they mess things up, they'll give you some compensation. And overall, their compensation has always been essentially either premium currency or 10 pulls, or guaranteed 3-star 10 pulls, which is, I wouldn't say unheard of from most companies, but it's definitely nice that the company is doing that. So I would definitely say take advantage of this game, especially while it's still in its infancy, because I can assure you that there's going to be a ton of free stuff coming our way. Overall, that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. I stream on Twitch almost every day right now, most likely Monday or Friday. We'll see. I do stream. I also have a Discord community, Twitter, and all that other stuff. Yeah, just find me. Links in the description down below. John Panio, signing out. I'll see you guys later. Bye for now.